If we pay attention to the week-to-week mechanics and to the evaluations that occur, we will, over time, learn a great deal, not only about public speaking, but about communication, about listening. There's so many things that we learn that we can improve. The inspiration for this particular project was to be real focused, to bring intentional information into our group so that we could learn key topics that over time have proven to be real helpful. We'll talk today about three things. First of all, we'll talk about the overall objectives that we had for this project. We'll talk about my experiences, and we'll talk about a few lessons learned. First of all, the objectives were pretty simple. I wanted to bring in some of the vintage Toastmasters material. There are manuals, stacks of manuals for these particular topics. One is called the Better Speaker Series, and the other is called the Successful Club Series. If you ever want to see these, you can just go into toastmasters.org and search for those, and you can get a whole lot more content, and you can study that on your own. The other thing that I wanted to do was I really wanted to tap into the vast wealth of our particular group. We've got really experienced people, and we've got numerous new people. And everybody brings their own perspective. I wanted us to all learn from each of those. When it came time to actually do this, here are some of the experiences that occurred. I sent out an email to everybody to just ask people to volunteer, and several experienced members came right at it and they said, well, I could talk about this, and etc. I took advantage of several of those. I actually recruited some of the younger members and said, you'd be really good if you talked about this particular topic, or choose your own topic. I found that people responded really well, and so that was really cool. Then we'll talk just a little about who all shared their expertise. I actually started in February, and I talked about some of the ideas about evaluations. What are some good ideas about sharing evaluations? Craig was very generous, and he gave us a lot of information about the specific meeting roles. What do the various people do in Toastmasters as we march through our meeting? Dave was very gracious to talk about some of the Toastmasters basics and things that we do in Toastmasters to make it a really healthy and encouraging and inviting climate. Tyler Essick used one of the canned PowerPoints, and he brought real life to that. I don't know if you remember that, but he used the normal PowerPoint, and he shared his own personal experience and talked about preparation and practice. If you were here last week, you got to hear Julia, what beautiful stories and what beautiful power you gave to us about how to control our fear. I could just feel the sweat and everything as you shared your story about that presentation. That was really well done. Thank you. Rebecca is going to share with us next week about the President's Distinguished Program. We've heard a lot about that, but we don't really know what it is, at least newer members don't. And what does it really do for us? And then Carpagam will give us an overview of where we're at with that. What are some of the lessons that we learned? If we listened during these meetings, we all learned a lot of techniques. We learned from the Better Club Series. We learned from the Better Speaker Series. We all learned a lot about what it's like to make an emergency shift to online meetings. I felt the presenters that have been doing this on this medium have stepped up really well, and I've really appreciated how everybody has been able to talk into microphones and into video cameras and be able to portray and still communicate really well. For me, the most important lesson that's been learned here is that Toastmasters is a process. It's not an event. Faithful attendance to each meeting, week over week, builds our expertise and our confidence in ways that nothing else will. there will be nothing timorous about any of you if we stay faithful to this process and we listen to each other. The beautiful thing is, when I help you to communicate better, when you help me to communicate better, then we also help everyone with whom we have contact. And to me, that's a good way to live. Madam Toastmaster.